two steps closer, and I've gotten two steps closer because God lets me hate him. And I know that that sounds like a really odd thing to say to a bunch of people sitting in a congregation about how I moved two steps closer. A little bit of my backstory: I grew up in a house with a wooden spoon on the wall because my mom was bipolar and she did not know how to handle children, and she had 9. And so when that wooden spoon came out, I didn't hate my mom, I hated God. So in high school, when I went to high school, and all the Christian girls in my school gossiped and told horrible rumors and were mean to me, I didn't hate them, I hated God. And God let me hate him. When I was 20 years old, I found myself sitting in a low-income housing office after 2 years at college. I was highly educated. I had a supportive family, and I was a single woman, pregnant, who had just gone through SAFE project because I was being beaten by the father of my child. And I did not hate the father of my child, I hated God. And for all of my life, whenever I needed to, God let me hate him. He did not turn his back on me, he did not walk away. When we moved to Colorado, because I thought, we're gonna get great jobs, my husband and I are gonna get these great jobs, and we're gonna be able to pay bills on time and do all of these amazing things, a little voice inside my head said, Sarah, stay here, go to graduate school, make your family have some sort of stable setting. But I didn't listen to God. So I packed up my family and I moved to Colorado, and 6 months later, God packed me back up and moved me back to Laramie, Wyoming. And that day I hated God. I hated God that he didn't make all my dreams come true. I hated God that I had a crappy childhood. I hated God that my fantasy about once upon a time didn't come true. And what I realized after all of this hating is that God lets us do that. God lets us blame him, God lets us hate him, and every single time that something like that has happened, God has picked me up. I did grow up in a rough household. I also grew up in a place where there were 8 other people who grew up there too, and they'd talk to me about it, and God gave me that. When I was in high school, and those girls were just wicked mean, there were other girls that they were mean to too. One of my very best friends now is a response to that situation. And when I was sitting alone in that housing office, I looked up, and by some miraculous divine intervention, there was a sign. And on that sign was a rocking horse. And underneath it, it said, just because you're in motion doesn't mean you're moving forward. So today, when you're sitting there in this church and you're wondering how the crazy lady who gets up and talks about the Grinch and talks about how great food makes her love communion, remember that the way that I get 2 steps closer to God has nothing to do with me. It has to do with God. I can be in motion in this church every single week. I can be running around and helping out with things, but just because I'm in motion doesn't mean I'm moving forward. So when I'm here, when I move in 2 steps closer to God, sometimes I'm angry, sometimes I'm hurt, sometimes I'm just downright broken. And I move 2 steps closer because God lets me do that.